Good morning, and thank you for tuning in. Gal, we've got a couple great guests in store for you today. And before we get into that, we had a heck of a storm last night. And from a homeowner's perspective, make sure you get out and scout out your property. We had the opportunity of having one of our members stop in the Bis-Man Homebuilders Association office this morning, and she said, make sure you inspect, be cautious in who you contract with, which we reiterate, and that's why we really encourage people to check out our website to use our members for their contracting work, because we are going to see a lot of fly-by-nights fly right into town to assess your property and offer up repairs. So this morning we have joining us two special guests. We have from our office, rejoining us this time around on a Super Talk Free for All Friday, Tracy DeForest, our member services representative, who will talk about some cool promotions we have going on where you can get in on the fun and hopefully win some substantial prizes as a result. And we're also honored to have with us the director of the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency, Mrs. Jolene Klein, here in the studio. And Jolene and the Housing Finance Agency has been a huge asset to our association and our members as well when it comes to promoting homeownership and making homeownership accessible to all walks of life through the programming that they offer. And we're here celebrating National Home Ownership Month. June is National Home Ownership Month. We were excited to have the mayors of Bismarck and Mandan proclaim it thus, so it must be a reality. And so welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you, Dot.
Thank you, Dot. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, we are excited. As I mentioned, heck of a storm. So Tracy and Jolene, did you hear the thunder, see the lightning, and feel the impact of the hail?
Yes, I don't know who could sleep through the pounding against the windows. It awoke my kids, my husband, myself. It was a little bit exciting.
Oh.
Well, I'm the opposite. I sleep with earplugs, and I slept right through it. I didn't hear about it until on my way to work this morning.
Yes. Well, when we talk about home ownership, it's such an exciting experience and truly continues to be the American dream to own your home. There's so much that comes with home ownership, not only your ability to really develop some wealth and accrue some equity, but just the emotions that homeownership incites in people, and the pride and everything else, a sense of community and connectedness. And, I think about the storm that we experienced last night and how comforting it was to know that I was protected by my home. My home was there. My neighbors and my community were there. And it's such a comforting feeling despite the torrential wind and rain and hail that we experienced. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, make sure you get out and inspect your home, talk to your insurance providers, and really, really scrutinize the contractors that might come your way or that you might use. And we really encourage people to visit bmhba.com and search our directory if you do need to seek out the support of some contractors for windows or roofs or whatever else damage you've faced during this storm. So let's get into Homeownership Month. And I'd like to start out by, again, welcoming Jolene and having her share a little bit with our audience about her agency. So what is the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency? Is it a state agency? What's your connections to our state government? And really, what are you tasked with providing as a service for the residents of North Dakota?
Thank you, Dot. We are a state agency. We operate under the Industrial Commission of North Dakota, which is the governor, the attorney general, and the ag commissioner. We have been in existence since 1980. Our mission is to provide affordable housing for all North Dakotans, and whether that be home ownership or rental, it is whatever the individual family feels is most relevant for them. We just celebrated the closing on our 40,000th loan earlier this spring. We as a state agency do not originate loans. We work with our partners. We rely on the home builders to build the homes. We rely on the real estate agents to sell those homes, and the local banks to originate the loans, and then they sell them to us. We service those loans through the life of the loan. And so that is our role on the home ownership side.
Yeah, Yeah, excellent. I mean, and it really is. It takes a village to not only raise a child, but to create a community and home ownership opportunities. And I like how you reference the fact that there's a relationship with the builders to construct the homes, and we also extend that relationship to realtors to help facilitate the sales. And then your financial institutions and how important it is that you work with lenders who fully understand the opportunities that your agency presents. And we'll spend some time, after the break. I don't want to get into it now because I want to spend some real time talking about those programs that you offer. Particularly when you've got someone who's kind of in the mindset, oh, I don't know if I can get into a house. I don't really have a good down payment. I'm not sure about my credit. Initiate the conversations because you don't ever know until you begin that discussion. And there are a lot of people who might not realize that homeownership is an option for them. It's not out of reach, and it's not out of reach because of the assistance that your agency provides. So with National Homeownership Month, we teamed up with your office, and a shout out to Sarah for really working hard with us to do a promotion to really get the word out that homeownership is still something that we want to strive for and brings great benefits. So, Tracy, can you tell us briefly about the Housey program we have?
Yes, the Housey campaign is something that we developed with Sarah Mutter. And if you go on our Facebook page right now, the BMHBA Facebook page, you can see a wonderful picture, a good example of what a Housey is. A Housey is basically a selfie. Take a picture of you and your family, you and your dog, you and your friends in front of your home, and give us a little shout out. Tell us what home ownership means to you. You can win up to $300 gift certificate from our member sponsors, Pacific Sound and Video, Hader Glass Specialties, and Interiors by France. All three of those companies were generous enough to participate in our campaign, and we love to see what it means to you.
Excellent. So while we take a quick break, pull out your phone, snap a shot, upload it to our Facebook page, click on that contest button, and make sure you hashtag ND Housies. When we get back, we'll talk more about National Homeownership Month with Jolene and Tracy. Stay tuned.
Right now, 72.
The Red River Farm Network. Ag News is here on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back. You're tuned in to Super Talk 1270's Free for All Friday with the Bismarck-Man Homebuilders Association. Thank you for sticking with us, or if you're just tuning in, welcome. You'll surely appreciate the guests we have on this morning's show, including Tracy DeForest from our office, the Bismarck-Man Homebuilders Association, and our very special guest, Jolene Klein, who is the director of the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency. Now, ladies, before we went to break, we had Tracy introducing a promotion that we're teaming up with the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency on to celebrate and bring attention to National Home Ownership Month. So, Tracy, you're talking about Housies. We're encouraging people to get out there, take a picture. It's a selfie in front of the house.
Yes.
Enter our contest because we've got substantial prizes to give away. Tell us, who we're working with to give away some prizes.
Well, we have some members of our association, Hader Glass Specialties, Pacific Sound and Video, and Interiors by France, have all generously offered gift certificates for participation. Now, we've gotten a lot of likes on our website, but you got to participate in order to win one of these great prizes.
Yes, so people have taken the first step, and they're paying attention to the promotion and liking it as a promotion, but they're not taking step 2, which is actually uploading your Housey, and you can't win if you don't put a Housey up. And so make sure you encourage your friends and family members to participate in this really exciting program, not only to spread the news about what home ownership means to you and to others, but for your chance at one of those prizes. So we've got 3 great sponsors, Hader Glass Specialties, lots of options to utilize that gift certificate.
Anything from a custom mirror to a decorative mirror hanging to a windshield.
Which you might need after the hailstorm we experienced.
That could not have come at a better time.
Yes. And then, we move on to Pacific Sound. Again, great opportunity.
Yes. They have so many options for home entertainment, security, sound. If you win this, it's a great way to get in there, walk in the door, and see what they have to offer. They are so wonderful working with homeowners, putting together a custom package for you. it's just so easy to do. It'll take 2 minutes of your time. Show us what home ownership means to you. Interiors by France. Also,
yes.
I don't know if you've ever been
Am I eligible, by the way? Because I'm hoping to get one of these prices.
Unfortunately not, but I don't know why a good friend of yours that might win wouldn't
We could
drag
split.
you into Interiors by France.
Absolutely. So Interiors by France, again, wonderful opportunity to, either stock your home or share with a friend like me as a gift, because they've got wonderful, wonderful home decor items and furniture and draperies and carpet and tile. So really go online, facebook.com/BMHBA. Click on the contest link. That's the quickest way to get there. Upload the housies.
Yes, and I have to say thank you, Jolene, for mentioning the campaign in your newsletter as well and getting the word out.
Perfect segue into the newsletter. So for people to stay kind of attuned to what your agency offers, both from, and we were talking about this during break, not only the lenders and the builders and the realtors who really serve as advocates for the programming you offer, but for consumers as well. You've got this great e-newsletter that goes out. I always love when it comes into my inbox because it contains wonderful information that I can use and I can share with others regarding the events and the programs and the updates. And let's just go through. Your most recent edition is the June edition. You can go online to get that newsletter going. Some of the things that you talked about in this edition are purchase price limits. I mean, what does that have to do with anything? Purchase price limits.
Our home ownership programs have income limits, income restrictions mandated by federal requirements because we issue tax-exempt mortgage bonds for the program. And so every year we get revised income limits from FHA, and we go out and publish those. And so for our first home program, our income limits range somewhere in that $88,000 to $110,000 depending on family size. But if your income is above that, don't be afraid to ask your lenders for what other resources our agency has, because we have a ROOTS program that is for non-first-time home buyers, that is for more moderate income home buyers. And so if you are a listener asking yourself, why would you want to use the NDHFA programs, I think the biggest selling point and the most used thing is our down payment assistance.
Oh, absolutely. And we were talking about that. You have the conventional loans where you think 20%. First-time home loans, maybe 3% or less. And even the 3% can be a hurdle for some, young people just starting out, or maybe they've had some situations in life that have dealt them a financial blow. But don't use that as a deterrent, because you've got some great opportunities. So talk a little bit more about the down payment assistance and how that works and how that can help get people into a house.
Sure, Dot. Just as you said, I think there's a lot of people sitting in rental situations who aspire to be homeowners, and they think that they can't afford to purchase a home. Our agency offers down payment assistance. You can get into a home for as little as $500 down. We offer down payment assistance up to $3,000 that covers those, helps cover those closing costs. And that is the biggest deterrent. 60% of our borrowers use our down payment assistance programs.
That's excellent. And what I think is so interesting, and when you talked about the purchase price limits and your income limits, those are a lot higher than I think most people anticipate. I think when they think of the housing finance agency, they think of very low income. But there are people that make a decent living that still really struggle with the down payment or ways to get into housing. And so it's refreshing to see how those limits are reviewed on a regular basis. So it ties into the availability of housing stock that we have here. Have you seen some good changes as far as the incomes or the amount that you're eligible for to finance based on how well our housing industry is doing?
The income limits go up every year. The acquisition limits have been going up. And it's interesting because while we are restricted on the acquisition side that the home value can't exceed, for the Bismarck-Mandan area, $276,000, our average loan is significantly lower than that, as well as the average income of our borrower is significantly lower than the maximum that's out there. So that is telling us that it's lower income borrowers buying houses that they can afford to buy.
Yes.
And we've seen a significant growth again this year in our home ownership programs 25% above last year. We fund about 1,000 loans a year, but it's continuing to go up. And I think, part of that is because the builders have figured out a way to produce more affordable homes out there. And also, there's more stepping up activity. So you have that first-time home buyer who bought the house for $150,000 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and their family is growing, and they're now financially able to move into a bigger home. And so that's freeing up that entry-level home for a new home buyer to get into the market. And so, it's good. It's good for the
It is
community.
good. And, housing all the way around and in the Bismarck-Mandan community specifically is very healthy. And it's, one thing that I had shared with Jolene earlier, and I share this with a lot of people, is there's quite a large amount of hesitation to act. One thing that I thought was so interesting on one of the sheets that you prepare for home buyers alludes to some tips for first-time home buyers. It's called Homeschooled, and it starts out with drop a budget. Very smart. That's where you should start. What can you afford? Have the conversations with your lenders to find out, what parameters are in place and the amount of housing that's within reach for you. Make a list of your needs and wants, so it'll help you with the home browsing and buying process. Do you need 3 bedrooms or 2? It says know the market. Okay, there's not a better way to do that than partner up with a realtor or a builder who's familiar with the community. It says don't rush. Then it says prepare closing costs. But I love this one. Go for it. And it talks about there's never a perfect house. Do you see people that are hesitant because they're looking for that perfect house? The paint colors have to be right. The flooring has to be right.
I think that is exactly right again, Dot. Whether they're looking for the perfect house, and the perfect house may not be affordable to them. And so I think you have to be realistic, and just as you said, have that conversation with your lender. Get pre-qualified so that you know what you can afford, and you can start looking within your affordability price range. I think that's key.
Well, because it could be very discouraging if you go out window shopping and you're at, the $300,000 houses, and then you meet with your banker and they say, so you're more like at $260,000. Come and look at those 300,000 plus houses when you do our Parade of Homes tours. But have the conversations with your lenders first, so that when you go out and you shop for something that you could really purchase. And it says go for it. We're going to go for a break. You're listening to Super Talk 1270's Free For All Friday with the Bismarck-Mandan Homebuilders Association. Stay with us. In the meantime, take advantage of the commercial break to upload your housey.
Right now, 72.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back. This is Dot Frank with the Bismarck-Mandan Home Builders Association. On another Free For All Friday, we've got Jim working the boards fabulously, always making us sound excellent, our timing impeccable. And we have some great guests with us. Tracy DeForest, my partner in crime. We're missing Terry. Terry's out having fun this weekend, and we wish her the best. Take full advantage of the beautiful weekend in store. But we've also got a great guest from the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency, the director, Jolene Klein. So welcome back, ladies. We've covered a lot, and we're at the halfway mark. Time flies when you're having fun, and you're definitely making it fun for me. Jolene, we were talking about some of the programming made available to individuals across the state in order for them to realize the American dream of home ownership. And while we were on break, we were talking about some, I guess, misconceptions about programs and the opportunity it prevents, and people kind of having a fear or a concern that we're putting people in a position where they might get, over their heads or underwater or walk away. But when you talk about the people that are taking advantage of this program and the default rate, nearly non-existent. I mean, we're getting people into programs and having them really appreciate the opportunities of homeownership, working with very smart, accountable bankers in order to make this happen. So is there some peace of mind for those folks out there who think, why are we doing this? Why can't they just, pull up their bootstraps, work as hard as I did in order to make this happen?
Well, that's exactly right, Dot. There are those out there that say, are we just, are we putting people into home ownership that don't belong into home ownership? Do they have enough skin in the game to make those mortgage payments if they can get into a home with as little as $500 down? And I will say that our foreclosure rate is extremely low, less than 0.5%. And so that tells us that the lenders are doing a fantastic job of screening, of underwriting those applications, and putting people in home ownership that have the desire to succeed.
That's excellent. Excellent news and peace of mind. And just, the one thing that we're really fortunate, and if you ever have some spare time and want to look at the impact of housing, it extends far beyond your ability to create some security and some personal wealth. Just the impact it has on you from an emotional standpoint, from a community standpoint, from a safety standpoint. There's excellent information on NAHB.org that alludes to the fact that kids who are in a stable home environment do better in school. You have less crime when you've got a high home ownership rate. So lots of benefits beyond just those that you could pursue from a financial perspective. Now, I pulled something off of your website that I think we'll have some fun with. This is tips for first-time buyers. We're going to play this almost like game show style, and it's myth and facts. So this is program myths and facts as prepared by the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency. So we'll start. This is a myth. The North Dakota Housing Finance Agency can only finance existing homes. Why is that a myth?
That is correct. We can also finance new construction homes. The reservation period is up to 300 days, so we will lock in an interest rate for 300 days to allow for that construction of the home. And that's important, again, in a community where there has been, a very active purchase market. You may need to look at a brand new home. Some of the considerations there are, does that unfinished basement give you the opportunity to have your family expand and stay in place without having to sell and repurchase? But it also brings some additional, potential costs. You have to look at what the landscaping is going to be and things like that. So, but yes, we can finance new as well as existing homes.
Which is excellent news for our members. As the Bis-Man Homebuilders Association, we are representing those builders out there that are creating home ownership opportunities, not only for first-time home buyers who can utilize the programs and services of the NDHFA, but also those move-up. And we talked about those move-up families who create an opportunity. They kind of pass along the opportunity to others, pay it forward, I guess, to families that need to get into more modest homes. So myth, again, number 2, it says the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency can only finance single-family homes.
And that is a myth again, because we can do condos, townhomes, we can even do an apartment building up to 4 units as long as one of those units is occupied by the borrower.
Excellent. Who would have thought that all of those situations are eligible for some support from the Housing Finance Agency? Okay, next statement says state tax dollars support the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency's homeownership programs.
Big myth.
Big myth. You are a state agency, but you're not using the state funds.
That's correct. We are a state agency, but we are self-supported. We issue mortgage revenue bonds, and that's the money that we pay the banks to acquire those mortgages that they originate, and we are self-funded with the earnings that we have on those bonds, and so that supports our operations.
Again, peace of mind when you think about how this program operates and how it's not on the backs of taxpayers. This is helping all of us by creating home ownership opportunities for others. Okay, next statement says, I'll have to pay recapture tax if I get an NDHFA loan.
The recapture tax issue. Simply, the answer is you may have to pay it if you purchased your home before a certain date, but our agency reimburses the borrower for the full recapture tax. So rest assured, borrowers, that if you are subject to recapture, we will reimburse you, and there will be no cost to you.
Excellent. And we have one final statement. It says first-time buyers are more likely to default. Now, they should know the answer to this already, but let's hear it.
Yes, we talked about the default rate being less than 1%. Our delinquency rate, which is just simply means that borrower is delinquent on their on their loan for a certain number of days. That is still well below the national average too, and our delinquency rate is a little, around that 4% range. Sometimes borrowers struggle to, depends on whether it's income tax time that they have to pay, or sometimes if it's Christmas shopping and they, choose to overspend on their credit cards. But, with the help of staff that are in constant contact with them and encourage them to come current, the majority do come current, as evidenced by our low foreclosure rate.
So let's talk about staff and staff support. I mean, obviously, you offer up some financial programs to get people into the homes. But beyond that, is there education that takes place for the home buyers, either before they purchase or after, the ongoing relationships? What does that look like out of your agency?
We offer online home buyer ed classes prior to that person becoming a homeowner. Our staff sometimes acts as counselors to help them figure out a way to make sure that mortgage is current. That is one of the beauties of our agency, is that we service those loans. If the local bank does not service in-house, it is a requirement when we purchase that loan that we service. In other words, we're not going to purchase loans and allow the servicing to be sent outside of the state. And so it isn't a toll-free number that somebody talks to in Texas, when they have issues with their loan. They can talk to, and they can come into our office and meet with staff personally.
That's excellent. So if you've got people that are interested in pursuing home ownership, they've got some questions, maybe they've been hesitant because they're not sure if they're fully prepared or if they're eligible from a financial standpoint, can they come in and visit with your staff at your office?
Certainly. We always say that your first line is going to be your lender. You've got that relationship with your lender, or should have it, and will need that relationship with the lender. But if there's unanswered questions, certainly our website, certainly our office at 2624 Vermont Avenue, we'll be happy to entertain any and all questions.
Excellent. Well, we're getting close to the next break, but before we go, I would like to talk a little bit more personally about home ownership experiences. So we'll start with Tracy. Tracy, first house you bought, is it the one that you're in currently? Is it one you've had previously? Tell us about that experience when you bought your first house.
The home I currently reside in is the first home that my husband and I have purchased. We went into the home, 2 of us, and we are now 5 strong. We're going on 10 years living in our home. We did build it, or worked with a builder on it, and it was a great experience. I can honestly say it was definitely a learning experience. Your first home always is. I think whether you build or move in, there are so many variables that you don't think about being an inexperienced homeowner. However, I feel lucky every morning to wake up in my home. Not only is it a roof over our heads, but the community that has sprung up around us and supported us is just amazing.
Excellent. And then how about you, Jolene? What was your first homeownership experience like?
My first homeownership experience was actually a government insured loan through USDA Rural Development, and it was through their self-help program. So there were 7 of us families that put in 7 basements, 7 did siding on 7 homes, and yes, that's how we got into it. That's how we had our equity to purchase our first home.
Oh, excellent. Very cool. And I've been through, as most people who know me know, that I enjoy moving, despite my husband's protestations. But our first house, we actually purchased in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And unlike, my younger brother and some of the young up-and-comers behind me, we truly didn't wait for the perfect house. In fact, we joke that our bathrooms was so small that your feet were in the tub when you sat on the toilet. But it got us started and allowed us to get where we're at today with homeownership. Well, we're going to take a break, our last break before the show is up. We still have 15 minutes remaining. Please stick with us. In the meantime, snap that housey, share that instruction with your friends and family members, and we'll be back shortly. This is Super Talk 1270.
Right now, 75.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. supertalk1270.com.
Welcome back. This is Dot Frank with the Bismarck Home Builders Association, approaching the top of the hour, which means we're coming to a close close on this Free-for-All Friday. I am joined by coworker Tracy DeForest, who is our Membership Services Director. She is responsible for ensuring that all of our members are well taken care of, and she does a fantastic job connecting them to the right resources and people to make their businesses grow. And we also have in the studio with us today a very special friend, Jolene Klein with the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency. We love your stuff. I am so impressed with everything that comes out of your office. Not only the publication, which I read religiously, but you've got great people that work in the office. And one that we'd like to really extend a thank you to is Sarah. Hopefully Sarah's tuning in. Sarah has been really integral in us kicking off and continuing with our Housey project. June is National Home Ownership Month, and we are working with your agency to put together a Housey contest on social media. So it's right on our Facebook site. Tracy, tell us again about this Housey contest.
Yes, if you visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/BMHBA, you will see Sarah's fine example of a Housey. It is a selfie of you, your friends, your family, your pets in front of your home, and let us know what home ownership means to you. It is the easiest way to win a gift card of up to $300 value. Perhaps your car was recently hailed out. You might need a new windshield from Hader Glass Specialties, one of our sponsors in this campaign. Also, Pacific Sound and Video has been generous enough to offer up a gift card, as well as Interiors by France.
Excellent.
It's easy.
Super easy, super fun. Share it with family members. Everybody likes to look and see those photos of you smiling happy by your potted plants or whatever you have at your front door. So lots of fun. Participate in that contest. Runs through the end of the month is your opportunity. So we were talking before break about our personal experiences into home ownership and what that's meant for us as individuals and community members and families. And it's such a great experience. I think you could talk to anybody. And while they might have had some trials and tribulations with the purchase project or the process and the building and construction, overall people really love talking about home ownership. They find a lot of comfort and joy in having that opportunity, and it is available to a lot of people thanks to the programs that are afforded through the Housing Finance Agency. Now, what I'd like to turn our attention to is back to this fabulous newsletter that you published, an e-newsletter, and there's some news under the public affairs headline. So we talked about our experiences. We talked about how you not only offer products and services for single-family homes, but also multifamily and various situations. Let's talk about some of your recent groundbreakings and open houses. What's happening across the state that you're particularly proud of, Jolene?
Well, in addition to our home ownership programs, we've been very fortunate to have state funding to help develop affordable rental housing across the state. And rental housing is a choice by some. It is something that, others, like a senior that may want to get out of home ownership and may need housing with certain accessibility requirements that may not be available in the housing that is already existing in that community. And so we're helping to fund a lot of affordable senior housing across North Dakota. And again, by putting them into or giving them the opportunity to move into rental, it's opening up those homes for new home buyers. So we, our most recent projects were in Minot and Burlington and Watford City. That program benefited from $40 million from the previous legislature. $10 million of that came from our good friends at the Bank of North Dakota from, a share of their profits. The other $30 million was in the form of tax credits awarded to us by the legislature. So in addition to helping create affordable home ownership opportunities, we also do work for HUD, contract oversight, to make sure that projects around the state that have a rental subsidy are operated in a good manner, so that people that need rental assistance are living in safe, quality housing. So. It's an exciting time. You talked about our staff. I think the key is that we have a staff who really believes in our mission. They are very sympathetic to people that need affordable housing. yeah, it's a great staff. It's a great place to work.
Yes, when you've got great leadership, that all comes together. So we're very thankful for what you do for the state of North Dakota and homeowners across North Dakota and renters. You talked about the Housing Incentive Fund. Now we are approaching in the upcoming year another legislative session. How are you feeling about the continuance of that? The response you've gotten from legislators across the state. What are your sentiments going into this next session?
Dad, I think it's going to be a tough session for everyone. There's a lot less money to spend. I think every program is going to be looked at closely. One of the things that we have done is we've commissioned an update to our statewide housing study that will be due out by the end of this month. The Center for Policy Research at NDSU is working on that study that will help tell us what some of the unmet housing needs are today. And I think that, the story that we are going to need to tell is, is it the homeless population? Is it the households with somebody with a disability that may need accessible housing? What are the niches that have not been met today? I always say that the early focus of the Housing Incentive Fund was primarily in oil country, and that left the Bismarcks and Easts out. I think that we need to take a look at what those unmet housing needs are for the rest of the state now. It's going to be a tough story, but we're going to rely on our knowledge and our partners' help in telling that story that there is still a need for state funding. We simply don't get enough funding from the federal government to meet our housing needs. Mm-hmm. And to recruit and retain a workforce, we need that affordable housing.
So let's talk about that, because we, talked about kind of the doom and gloom attitude that people still hang on to despite, spectacular numbers that our association can report regarding permits, despite the spectacular news that's coming out of the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association from commercial construction's perspective, despite the excellent news that's coming out of the Bismarck-Mandan Board of Realtors regarding housing. We still have some of that gloom and doom hesitation to invest locally through housing or whatever it may be. Statistically, we're proving otherwise, and especially from the jobs perspective. And we talked about jobs got a lot of attention. Now it seems like the news media has really focused on the price of oil and commodity prices. But we still have tons of jobs. And when you have jobs, you need housing. So what are you hearing as far as the needs of employers and affordability and access to housing across the state?
Meetings that I go to, Dot, there is still, there are a lot of job openings around the state. If you talk to a realtor in Fargo, what they will tell us will be different from somebody in Bismarck or somebody in Williston. So there's different needs. What I hear coming out of the East is that the majority of their job openings are in that entry-level pay, the retail sector, the service sector, where somebody working for $7.50 to $10 an hour can't afford to rent an apartment unless they're double and triple bunking with roommates. And while that may be okay for a 19-year-old, it may not be okay for a 22 or 25-year-old with a child. And so different issues, but people, employers still tell us that their biggest obstacle in recruiting that workforce is the lack of affordable housing.
Absolutely. So hopefully that will be one of the points making as you're approaching our legislators' next session or this upcoming session. One thing that as an association we really like to talk about when it comes to programming made available to individuals to get them into the mode of homeownership is that you can't consider just the expense per se of the incentives that you provide or the programs that are given out and granted. You need to think about the revenues gained as a result of getting homeowners in your community. So those are people that are populating your schools, they are filling the positions, they are paying property taxes, they're paying sales taxes. So we really like to tie the two together. So you might have some short-term savings, but the long-term loss that you have without putting up homes is substantial and should definitely be considered. Well, we're approaching the top of the hour and we've gotten a lot covered. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, Jolene, from your office for both maybe the consumers that are listening right now or the business owners, whether it's home builders, realtors, or bankers who might be tuned in?
Just, keep on looking at us as a partner of yours. We really believe that the builders are our partners. The more inventory you can create that is affordable, the better our community is going to be, as well as the real estate agents, the lenders. We can't do it alone. We need all of the partners.
Excellent. And we can't do it alone either. As the Homebuilders Association, we rely heavily on memberships. If you're interested in joining the Bismarck-Mandan Homebuilders Association, please reach out to Tracy DeForest at the BMHBA. You can find her at tracy@bmhba.com or pick up the phone 222-2400. And now, goodbye after a free-for-all Friday with Super Talk 1270.